Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to This Week in Gaming. System Shock fans are finally getting a taste of what the reboot will offer, and AMD released their ultimate budget GPU this week. If you're here for something like FPS or DLC news, just click its category to skip to that section of the video. Mobile users see the description for timestamps. First up, System Shock's reboot has launched its Kickstarter campaign, with development being handled by several veterans of the game industry. It seems like fans of the series are getting something really special. The Kickstarter includes a playable demo and is actually pretty good. Visually, it's fairly incredible for a Unity game, and it's striking just how faithful yet modern the gameplay feels to the series' previous titles. If you're a fan of games like Alien Isolation, Soma, or Bioshock, I think you should check out the demo, as I'm sure it'll be right up your alley. The demo is available on Steam, GOG, and the Humble Bundle store. And speaking of Bioshock, this week 2K announced Bioshock the Collection. Priced at $60, the collection includes remastered version of Bioshock 1 and 2, all of the DLC, and brings Infinite to the current generation of consoles. The PC version of the collection won't feature any upgrades to Infinite, as it's already a fairly modern title that looks and runs great. There's been a wave of remastered releases announced recently, and while most of them make sense for current-gen console owners, they don't really make much sense for PC players. Bioshock 1 and 2, however, aren't the best ports, and they have a ton of control and audio issues. Hopefully those will be ironed out relatively soon. Owners of the original Bioshock 1 and 2 on Steam will get the collection editions of each game for free, so if you want to save some money, pick them up now, as they're both heavily discounted thanks to the Steam summer sale. In other gaming news, a teaser trailer for the upcoming FPS horror game Scorn was released this week, and it looks incredible. It's rare, especially in the horror genre, to see a game that looks this polished and organic. Most horror games take place in familiar territory like houses and space stations. Scorn looks like it's set inside the belly of a monster from H.R. Geiger's Nightmares. Scorn originally debuted as a Kickstarter project in 2014, but failed to get funded. Since then, the developers attracted a private investor. Comparing the new trailer with the original Kickstarter trailer makes it clear that they've been quite busy. I can't wait to see more of Scorn. It's not being designed for VR, but it is being designed to have full body awareness, and I hope other developers take note and apply whatever Scorn does well to their VR titles. In more traditional FPS news, the devs of Escape from Tarkov released new gameplay footage, and it looks like progress on the upcoming FPS MMO is going quite well. One issue people are talking about, though, is that the game's FOV may be locked into 70. At one point, there was a post on the game's forums from a dev saying that they're including a field of view slider, but that thread has since been deleted. In the past, Tarkov's developers have stated that the field of view would be locked to 70 degrees. And just watching the gameplay video, it's kind of hard to handle that limited FOV. And frankly, to be blunt, it's 2016, people. FOV sliders aren't a feature anymore. They're pretty much standard. Or if you're not going to have them for the sake of a competitive game, at least lock the FOV into something more reasonable like 85, such as Blizzard's Overwatch. Considering that Escape from Tarkov appeals to a very hardcore PC audience, they're going to want all those customization features available. I would say locking your field of view at 85 would be more reasonable, but there's still going to be some people out there that are a little bit upset by this. There have been leaps and bounds made in game design over the past decade. Customization options have gone from a niche thing that only a few select games offered to being pretty much standard in all modern PC games. So ignoring that kind of progress, even if it's out of necessity, just feels like a slap in the face, especially to the PC game. Turning an eye toward the arena shooter scene, the recently announced Quake Champions creative director Tim Willits confirmed that the upcoming arena shooter will be a PC-only title. Quake was one of the foremost competitive FPS games of its time, which is something that Willits clearly understands. Speaking with GameSpot, he said, "If we lose the pro guys, we're in trouble. That's why it's a PC game. No excuses, no limitations." And that last bit about no limitations is obviously big for me. Arena shooters are clearly making some kind of a comeback. Where Quake, Lawbreakers, and Unreal Tournament land when the dust settles is anyone's guess, but for now I'm just excited at how much variety there is in the FPS genre these days. Also, Doom got an update this week that added a photo mode and old school viewable model option, as well as bug fixes and balance changes to the multiplayer multiplayer. Right after Doom's launch, id announced that they're taking over updates to the multiplayer from the external dev that built it. Because this is only the game's first update, obviously not much was expected of it, but hopefully it is committed to making the multiplayer experience at least on par with the competition. For now, it's kind of just a novelty. Switching gears to hardware news, AMD released their RX 480 GPU this week. Priced at $200, the 480 is pretty much the best budget card on the market until Nvidia releases something comparable. What's notable about the 480, however, is that the addition to being the first affordable VR-capable GPU, it's also the first FinFET or 14 nanometer manufacturing process GPU that AMD has ever released. Given how powerful it is for a $200 GPU, AMD could have some serious horsepower behind their upcoming mid-range and high-end GPUs later this year. Nvidia's recently released GTX 1070 and 1080 GPUs are sitting pretty as the leaders of the high-end GPU market right now, but AMD seems primed to fight them for the top spot. Bottom line is us gamers have a lot to look forward to this year when it comes to new GPUs, especially for the price to performance ratios. In console hardware news, Microsoft's Major Nelson announced that they've shipped 1 million Xbox One Elite controllers at $150 a piece. That's no small feat for such a premium peripheral. Microsoft recently released the Xbox Designs Lab, which lets you customize the color of every part of the standard Xbox One controller. The Elite controller isn't available on the Designs Lab yet, but given how well it's apparently selling, it seems like it and even the Xbox One itself will be available to customize at some point. In follow-up to last week's news about G2A being shadier than a forest when it comes to video game sales, it seems like they're feeling a bit of pressure to improve. They've announced a royalty system and that they're giving developers access to G2A's database to verify game keys against. It hasn't been made clear whether or not this will be available to all developers out there or if they have to partner up with G2A in order to get access to these features. Given the history of G2A's business practices, I wouldn't be surprised if they're using this as more of a way to try and stiff-arm developers into partnering up with their website, as it will be the only way to really regulate some of the shadier sellings that's going on. I'll be on Total Biscuit's co-optional podcast this coming Tuesday, so I'm sure G2A will come up as a subject matter at some point, and we can get some varied opinions on it. When it comes to competitive shooters, Overwatch finally got its competitive mode. Not much about it has changed from the PTR version of the game that debuted a couple weeks ago, but it does include gold weapon skins and launches the first competitive season for Overwatch. Personally, it's nice just to be able to play the game with people who understand how to play. Blizzard has a lot of work to do to bring competitive mode up to par with the esports titles, but their commitment to improving Overwatch is obvious, and it'll be exciting to see its evolution continue. Now, if you missed my video from yesterday, it's a good 20-minute long overview or critique rather on Battlefield 1's alpha. As a Battlefield veteran and huge fan of the franchise myself, I'm very excited for the next title, but it's always important to take a critical eye to the game itself and try and look for problems that are going to arise in the actual game balance and gameplay down the road, and that's what I did in the video. It's certainly worth checking out if you're a fan of the franchise as well. Anyway, that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. There's a lot to look forward to regarding new games and new hardware. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.